Welcome to this exciting session at the Arrell Food Summit. I am Rashid Sumaila. I'm a University Killam professor and Canada researcher in interdisciplinary oceans and fisheries economics at the University of British Columbia. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Shakuntala Thilsted. That's Danish, I think, and I studied a bit of Norwegian. Really happy to be introducing you. And before we get into the interview, I want to give you a little background to the bio of Dr. Thilsted. Shakuntala is the global lead for nutrition and public health at World Fish Center, based in Penang in Malaysia. In 2021, she was awarded both the World Food Prize and the Arrell Global Food Innovation Research Award. So in 1 year, you won the two big awards in this field. That says it all, I think, and congratulations for doing that. This is remarkable. So her groundbreaking research is very deep and wide in this area. She has provided critical insights and landmark innovations in developing holistic, nutrition-sensitive approaches to aquatic food systems. So the key thing is nutrition, and this is what you brought into the debate big time. I mean, most of us are talking about food and quantities and food security. No, here is about nutrition, and that's your big contribution. You helped to develop a solid project in World Fish, which is really, you just put up World Fish on the map, and for all of this, you won these awards, and it's remarkable. Thanks for your contribution. Now let's get to some questions. I know the audience will be looking to hear from you. You are renowned for developing nutrition-sensitive approaches to aquatic food systems that successfully improve the nutrition and health of millions of women and children, right? Very important group of people. Without our women, without the children, forget about the men, right? So this is really, really critical that you help to bring food, bring it to low and middle income countries. And that is also crucial in Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. So can you give us an example of how these holistic approaches that you have introduced work in action? How do you do that, Doctor?
Thank you so much, Rashid, and thank you for that introduction. Yes, it's true. I've dedicated my career in research on nutrition-sensitive approaches to aquatic food systems. And I guess when I started, this was very different because, as you mentioned, many people start with production and they start with the inputs to production. Yeah. I do think that the difference starts with a people-centered approach, not just looking at the foods we eat, the foods we produce, but who eats the food and who produces the food and who gets the food on the table. So with the people-centered approach, you ask different questions and you get different answers. So I began this work in Bangladesh and in Cambodia, and then at my university when I was in Copenhagen. And with a background in agriculture and a background in nutritional physiology, I was able to use very many different entry points into the food systems. And I began with looking at consumption patterns. And consumption patterns not only in the household, but at individual members within the household. So if you would look at, and as you said, I focused on women and young children. And this was a very good entry point because it gave me the opportunity to be with communities, to learn from women, not only listening to their issues, their problems, but asking them, what do you see as the solutions? And in Bangladesh, working in Bangladesh, I zoned in on small fish. Because when you talk to women, they would tell you when the rains come and we eat small fish, we see better. Mm. And with the background I have, I can link that to small fish having high quantities of vitamin A. So that was the start of my journey. And then I worked a lot with common fish species in Bangladesh, in Cambodia. And being in Denmark, I was able to use very sophisticated methods in Denmark and other countries in the world. I sent samples to Australia to look at the wide, multiple nutritional nutrients that are found in these small fish. And to my surprise, they are what you would call superfoods because they contain many minerals, essential minerals, calcium, iron, zinc, to name a few, vitamins, vitamin B12, which is so very important for cognition. Mm. And then I went back to production because in Bangladesh, this was very easy. There are 4 million household ponds in Bangladesh. Mm. And I started looking at the diversity of the production systems, doing pond polyculture that includes small fish and large fish, and thereby increasing production, productivity, as well as nutritional quality. And with essential nutrition messaging, all families, all mothers and fathers want their children to be well nourished, want their children to be smart. So if you would give the knowledge to the parents, they will use it to feed their children, find ways to feed their children these superfoods so they can benefit from them.
Fantastic. I mean, this is a very wide-ranging answer, and there's a lot in for our audience. I mean, thank you very much, and your broad background, the way you were moving from Bangladesh to there. I mean, it just shows your global scope, and thank you for that. Yeah, aquatic foods were raised as a key solution cluster at the recent United Nations Food System Summit. What actions can we take to make sure aquatic foods are an integral part of the food system in terms of policies, investment, research? Because really, up until now, we have been left behind in this. So what can we do?
That's really true, Rashid. And it was very exciting to see at the UN Food System Summit 2021 that 7 solutions were put forward by the scientific group of the UN Food System Summit. And of the 7 solutions, one of these 7 was on aquatic foods. So I was extremely happy to see this, an area, as you know, that's very much unrecognized, and with very little investments in research being elevated to that level. And we've just scratched the surface of what we can do and how we can prioritize aquatic foods in food and nutrition systems, in the policies, the investments, the research. So with this recognition, I do hope that we will be able to elevate the role of aquatic foods in food systems. And with these superfoods, we'll be able to nourish peoples better. So we have looked at a lot of the evidence, as you know, within the Blue Food Assessment that we have been engaged in. And we know that with sustainable management, the evidence shows us that we can produce 6 times more food than we do today. And that this would mean we would have more nutritious foods for the people. And we can then, with the intake of these superfoods with micronutrients and essential fatty acids, then we can have greater nutrition and health benefits for the people. So we must make aquatic foods central to the global development agenda with respect to investments in research, respect to investments in innovations, and also look at it from a holistic point of view, not just fish by itself, but the diverse range of aquatic foods, and not just the diverse range of aquatic foods, but also the other foods with which aquatic foods are consumed. When you make a dish, you add other foods to the aquatic foods. And when you put your foods on the table, it's a range of foods and a diverse range of foods. And this is what we should want for all peoples, no matter where in the world they live. And also, these foods must be culturally acceptable. So when you ask me about what should we do, first of all, I would say bring in the communities, especially the women, learn from them, look at their solutions. Just don't go and do the research, find out what the problem is, then go back to our labs and to our offices and find the solutions for them, co-create the solutions and have them sit, have communities and community members sitting at all levels of the food systems, starting with the government policymakers.
Wonderful. Excellent again. I mean, I just like the way how expansive your answers are, bringing the community on, really making us clear about how important the food from blue systems are. Just an example, I mean, if you just look at the ocean alone, one back of the envelope calculation I made a few years ago is we take about 100 million tons of fish, if you roughly, from the ocean alone, right? And that is nearly 100 million mature cows, which is more than all the cows we slaughter land a year. So this is really big source of nutrition, as you like to say. So thank you for highlighting this and making the world aware of this. Yeah. Now, how can we ensure a shift in narrative from feeding a growing population with a focus on increasing the quantity of food, quantity, to nourishing all peoples on our planet, everybody? How do we do that? How do we move from feeding just the few to feeding everybody?
Thanks, Rashid. And I do think words mean a lot. And many people talk about feeding, which is fantastic. And we've gone through from the 60s to now, starvation. We've seen stark starvation. We've seen people dying of hunger. But in today's world, we are at a different place. And when I think about feeding, and many think about feeding, it's about the quantity of food, filling your stomach, the quantity of foods we produce, the quantity of foods we trade, the quantity of foods we export, and then all of this is put in terms of a monetary value. I do think that the word nourishing gives us so much more scope to work with the value of foods. And therefore, I have stopped using the word feeding, and now I'm using the word nourishing, and I've seen that many are doing that too. So I'm extremely happy for that. And when we begin with nourishing, again, it's very important that we start with the people that we want to nourish and are focused on women and young children in the first 1,000 days of life. But this shift from feeding to nourishing moves us away from just concentrating on staple foods and takes into consideration the diversity of nutritious foods that we have on the plates and the diversity that people eat. So we must, and it gives you a scope, just not to think about the the food that's traded. It gives you the scope to think about the people who eat the food and the benefits they get from it. So it's very holistic. It also gives you the very different entry points, because then you can talk about not just the consumers, but the very many actors along the supply chains and within the production systems. So it gives us the opportunity to get the best benefits and all the benefits across many sectors from using the word nourishing rather than just feeding.
Yeah, fantastic. So as you were talking, my mind was spinning around. I think what you're telling us to do is stop thinking of feeding the stomach and get onto nourishing the soul in a way. I mean, so that is what was spinning in my head. But then a follow-up question, a quick one. As you know, there are many people who are still malnourished, who are hungry, to make it more direct, right? 800 million people by some estimate. My suspicion is when they hear us talking about nourishing, they'll say, come on, people, we just want to be alive. Why are you talking about nourishing? What do you have to tell these people, right?
So, Rashid, I think we are better than that as researchers, as policy makers, as the private sector. We are better than that. We can do both.
Good.
We can both give the quantity, sufficient quantity, but we can do that of diverse, nutritious foods, not just the staple food, not just maize in Africa or rice in Asia.
Yeah.
So we can do better.
Now, what career or life choices have been the most crucial in making your work so impactful?
With the holistic approach that I've used for my work, it's multiple, Rashid, and I can start with my own family and my own background, which has meant so much to me growing up in Trinidad and Tobago, and where the range and the diversity of tropical foods and being a small island was so great. So from early childhood, there are things in my background, the ways my grandmother would prepare foods that I still use today in my work. So that's one part of me. It's who I am as a person and the background I have. Another is that I have been extremely fortunate to live in many different countries in Asia and in Africa, and I have seeked out communities to go to the rural areas and work with communities and learn and listen. And that has meant a lot to me, especially the women in the communities and the grandmothers in the communities. So learning from communities and bringing that back to combining that with the scientific background that I have. If we would all do that, we can do better. We can do better with what we do with our research. And another is, I have been not just looking very narrowly, for example, as you began by saying, a production of one food. I've been able to look across the food systems and starting with consumption data. What do people eat? What do different household members eat? What do they eat in different seasons? And with that information, move back to the supply chain and the production. So a much more holistic view of food systems, a much more holistic view of nourishing people.
Wonderful. So nourishment, holistic, learn, listen, combine traditional local knowledge with science, and you will be impactful. Okay, that's the message. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Yeah.
You know, Rashid, if you would just go to African villages and look at the markets, you see so many dried fish products. Then you go to the homes and you talk to women. How do you use these dried fish products? There's a wealth of information which we haven't tapped into as yet.
Fantastic. Yeah. So now that you've talked about giving an African example, I know you've been all over, you've tried so many foods, and it's very common for us to hear Mediterranean food is healthy, is the best or something. Now, given all that you have seen, what do you think? Are there other similarly healthy food around the world, or what can you tell us?
Why do we say Mediterranean food is good? Yes, it is good, but why do we say that? Because we have studied Mediterranean food and we know about Mediterranean food. We've done the analysis and the assessments. We haven't done the same for African diets or for Asian diets. I've worked a lot, as you know, in Bangladesh, and I give the example when I see a plate of food in Bangladesh with rice, vegetables, pulses, small fish. A bunch of green chili, and lemon slices. Then I say to myself, if I would have the time to analyze this plate of food, I am sure it's going to match up to the Mediterranean plate.
Wonderful. Yeah. You make my mouth water. You know, this is beautiful. The way you describe the Bangladeshi plate it's really beautiful to see that. The theme of this summit is turning ideas into action. There are many students and early career researchers watching this interview. What advice would you give them about making their work actionable, taking from science to action? So what advice do you have for us all?
Rashid, we should both be answering this question, because when I talk to people all over the world, they talk, and there's many people talk about you as being a mentor and as being a teacher. And this is the role that I think is so important, and that is one of the most satisfying roles that I have had. I have been fortunate to be able to work in the field as well as work in universities, do research and teach in many different countries of the world, not just in Denmark, where I live. And if we, in our roles, can give what we have learned and the lessons further to the younger generation of researchers and students, that's a fantastic gift we have, so that our ideas and our knowledge and where we are going and the continuation can go on for a longer time and grow to heights that we had never expected. So what do I say to young people? Don't give up. You must persevere. Seek out mentors like you, Rashid. Listen and learn. And very importantly, go out into the communities. Spend time with them. Listen to them, not only to the problems they face, as I've said before, but also to their solutions, their traditional knowledge. Ask, what did your grandmother do? How did your grandfather solve this problem? So there is very much we can do. And I look forward to a younger generation coming up. I really look forward to working with younger researchers and students and getting them to move with these ideas that I have, especially about nourishing the world, nourishing all peoples, and nourishing our nations.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Thilsted. You have actually convinced me. I see clearly why you won these 2 big awards in 1 year, right? Among all the researchers in this field in the world. So congratulations again, and thank you for all that you do. All the best. And I want to turn to summit attendees. You can enter the code aquatic in the gamification session to earn extra points. And we will see you at the next session, which is the Change Makers Forum. What a beautiful forum to follow Dr. Shakuntala's interview. Thank you so much and all the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rashid.